This book is like a layer cake of goodness. One layer on the bottom that is your own personal story. There is a layer about how Twitter came to be, and then there's all on the way a lot of really interesting insights about how to lead a creative business these days and how to innovate. And I'm just curious, how did this start? Where did this book come from?
Well, I'll tell you that, but before I do that, I want to thank Ted for helping put this on. I know it's a lot of work to put these things on, so I appreciate you organizing it for me. Also, he told me backstage that the capacity of this theater is 140. Are you kidding me? Come on. It's perfect. Anyway, so thanks for having me, and thanks for limiting the capacity to 140.
Yeah.
What happened was I was invited to do a lecture over a decade ago now. Actually, it was called a master class at Oxford University, which made it sound really fancy, so of course I had to do it, but it's really just a lecture to the students. And then miraculously they invited me back, and then I started going back every year. Then I started doing it at other schools. Then I started doing it, then I started getting invited to do it for 3,000 high school students in Mexico City for Carlos Slim's scholarships, and then C-level executives in Europe at the Corporate Center for Reputation, and then all sorts of leadership summits and this and that, and so I started doing it, and something that struck me was that everyone from high school students in Mexico City to CEOs were coming up to me afterwards and telling me that the stories and the lessons I were advocating for in the book were really resonating with them. And I thought, this is a really wide audience. I mean, these are very different people, and yet they're all universally some value in what I'm telling them. And then, so there was that, and then someone more recently said, hey, Biz, you should write a book. And I thought, I'll just turn the lecture into a book, and that way I don't have to do the lecture anymore. But of course, when you write a book, everyone then wants you to come lecture some more. So that'll be in volume 2, another screw up. There's a lot of failure in the book, by the way. A lot of the book is filled another layer cake, layer of failure, smeared multiple times in between there.
I'm not surprised that you are finding CEOs and students each finding their own path in it. And a lot of the audience may not know this, but you didn't start off as a coder. You started off in something near and dear to my heart, in graphic design. How did you find yourself in Silicon Valley, coming from the East Coast and from your upbringing?
That's a long story. I started out as an artist. I'll tell a really quick version of the story, but we could dive in it. Sorry, I have a cold. My 2-year-old sneezed right in my face when I got home from New York. And then he covered up. So he knows what to do. I'll tell the short version, but if we wanted to, we could expand some of the funnier parts later. The short version is I got offered a job designing book jackets for a publishing company. I took it. Let's just say I took it. And then I decided to start my own graphic design studio. Realized I couldn't just do book covers. This was the mid-90s, website design. I could rake it in, so I taught myself HTML and website design, started raking it in. Friends who had finished college went into consulting, hated consulting, came to me and said, hey, you're doing website design. Let's start a web company. That's how vague it was in 1998. A web company. Okay. So we started what turned out to be an early social blogging network called Zanga.com, and launched that in 1999. And then that didn't work out, so I went back to my mom's basement. But I still had a blog, and the blog became my alter ego. I did write a couple of books about blogging. I was obsessed with it. I really did feel passionate about the democratization of information. I love the idea that people could create websites that didn't have to know how to code. And so what happened was finally I got a job at Google to work on the Blogger team after Blogger was acquired by Google. I was sort of, Google was filled with PhDs in computer science, and I sort of brought the social software. So that's how I ended up getting invited to come move to California and be in the tech scene, Silicon Valley, then I left Google to do startups, and
And the rest is history, so to speak.
It's all history because it all happened.
It's all right here. So one of the things that I really enjoyed in the book is thinking about these lessons that you give along the way of things you've learned. And you talk at one point about how when you were at Odeo and you guys kind of the writing was on the wall that was maybe not going to be a going concern. You talk about this notion of making your side projects center stage. And I wonder if maybe you could just share a little, what does that mean?
The reason I left Google, a lot of people sort of are taking this the wrong way. They think I left Google because I didn't like Google. I loved Google. Google was an amazing place to work. I left Google because Evan Williams, who was the founder of Blogger, he left. And I asked myself, why did I move out to California? Was it to work at Google or was it to work with him? And the answer was it was to work with Evan. So I had to do that. So I went with Evan, and we started this company called Odeo, which was a podcasting company. And what happened was we came up with this idea that we thought was great. Like, oh, this is great. We'll democratize radio. This is amazing. These iPod things are getting popular. So we started doing that, and Apple then decided to put podcasting in iTunes, and we thought, well, that's a good place for it. Probably better than our website. But that's not what did us in. What did us in was we didn't podcast. We didn't listen to podcasts, and we didn't want to make podcasts. We got in front of the microphone, and we were just like, you talk, no, you talk. And we didn't want to listen to anything, and we weren't into it. So what I learned when so Evan suggested at some point, I'm skipping through a lot of stuff, but Evan suggested finally, well, let's do a 2-week hackathon, which is just like, work on anything you want, pair up. Jack Dorsey and I had become really good friends by that point, so we knew we were going to team up. We teamed up. We smushed together a badly working version of what would become Twitter, and an early indication. I'm getting there. I'm answering your question. An early indication to answer your question. We were prototyping Twitter, and it was a heat wave. I was working on my wife and I had bought this little 400 square foot house in Berkeley, and I had watched enough Bob Vila when I was a kid to think that, when you rip up the carpeting, you reveal the beautiful hardwood floors underneath.
Always.
So I started in the middle, and there was no floor under there, and I was like, well, now I have to keep going. So I was ripping that up and cursing myself for being an idiot and ruining my house, and then my phone buzzed in my pocket, and it was Evan, and his tweet was, sipping a Pinot Noir after a massage in Napa Valley, and I started laughing out loud. And I said, and then at that point I kind of had this like out of body experience, and I said, look at me, I'm laughing out loud at a project that I'm working on, and that's when I realized why Odeo didn't work and why Twitter was going to work for me, and it was that I didn't have emotional investment in Odeo. That's the key. If you don't have emotional investment, then failure is pretty much guaranteed. Success isn't by any means guaranteed, but failure is more likely to happen. So making the side project center stage was all about emotional investment, having emotional investment. We knew we loved it, and that's why we made it center stage.
And that's definitely what's driving you now with Jelly. You want to tell us a little bit, what is
mission,
Jelly and what's driving that project?
When you feel that emotional engagement and you're on that mission, like sort of nothing stops you, and you don't hear you hear it, but none of the naysayers kind of affects you. You keep going. So Jelly is a complete reimagining of the way that we get answers to our queries. No one's really done this in the past 15 years because it's the way we do it now seems like it's awesome, and it totally works great. And it doesn't just seem like it's awesome, it's fantastic. Search engines are the oracles of our day. They're unbelievable. The internet wouldn't work without search engines. It would be broken because what are you going to do? There's a zillion, trillion, million documents where look through them. You need this. But my co-founder Ben Finkel and I thought, well, what if we had to create a system that could answer any question for you? what would we do? We're not, Ben is a computer scientist, but we're not information retrieval specialists. How would we do it? In today's media landscape, this isn't 15 years ago. This is a world where everyone's connected by smartphones or social networks. The proverbial 6 degrees of separation has now been, several white papers have come out that say it's now 3.8. So it's 4 degrees of separation is the new Kevin Bacon thing. And so we said, the way we would do it is it would be mobile. And the way it would work is that we would assume that mobile phones are essentially the hyperlinks of humanity. And so if you have a question, you could ask Jelly, and it would very quickly, we can route it to a person who, doesn't just have the answer, but has it's so much more than a document. It's information transmuted through life experience that turns into knowledge, and that's just so much more powerful. And so what we did was we designed a better way to ask a question, and because it's using mobile phones, you can ask a question with a photograph. So anything you can see with your eyes, you can ask about it. What is this? What tree does this leaf come from? Anything. And then we put maps into it. So thanks to the wonders of Apple and Google, we have an interactive map of the entire planet Earth. Every dentist, every store, every house, every bike path, every road, everything. You want to ask a question about it, it's in there. And then if that's not doing it for you, we have a blank box at the bottom that just says whatever, type whatever in here. And then we route it to somebody who knows your answer.
So the way it works, like we were in the lobby, we were looking at some of the artwork. If I didn't know who that was, I could take a picture of it.
Who's the painter?
Ask who the painter is, and how long does it normally take for me before I find out, how quickly does it respond?
Surprisingly, it's usually minutes or sometimes less than a minute, and I did not think that was going to happen. We have a little measurement called the TFA, time to first answer, and I'm shocked at how quickly it is. And the reason is because people are wired to help. I've always said that people are basically good, and if you build tools that help them exhibit that behavior, they'll prove it to you every day. I mean, we want to help. We all have the same experience when we drive by someone who's broken down on the side of the road. We immediately think I should pull over and help that person. Everyone thinks that. But then we say, oh, geez, they could be crazy. I'm going home. I can only be late for dinner. The whole family's going to be disappointed. And they probably have AAA, right? I mean, who doesn't have AAA? And they probably have who doesn't have they probably called a friend. They have AAA. I pull over. I'm a nuisance. I'm going to pass. I'll pass. It's better for everybody. We just throw it on the heap of stuff we didn't help people with that day. What we've done is we've basically taken all of that and we've reduced it down to, tapping on glass with your finger to help someone. And you're not helping any less because someone can be in a real bind somewhere and you can help them. And not just by answering the question, by forwarding it to someone who might know, by tapping the good button, which spreads it even more, puts it into more in front of more people. I mean, you can really help people. And so getting back to your original question of why are you so driven to do this? Well, first of all, it's not just potentially a wonderful business to be in. This concept of this big idea of answering everyone's questions turns out it's a lucrative business. But bigger than that even is this idea that if we are successful, we could maybe introduce into the daily muscle memory of hundreds of millions of people this idea that there are other people who could use your help right now, and we could help people sort of unlock their empathy, exercise their empathy muscle, and maybe in our lifetime working on this, we can kind of up the global empathy quotient, if that's a thing, and make humanity a little bit better. My aspirational vision of the future is that people cooperate more with each other, and we do in 1 year what it might have taken 100 years to do before, because we now are so connected and we can be so cooperative. And so to me, Jelly is the true promise of a connected society. people helping one another. That's got to be the true promise of such a connected society.
And when I read that in the book, when you were talking about that, really is what social's all about, is the idea of connectivity of people helping people. And you have such a track record of doing that. You held the Red handle so that Red someday could get involved with Twitter. You've been very active in Donors Choose. You've launched your own foundation. The question I have for you on that is, you've always been very true to seeing what the power of these social platforms could do. When you look at Silicon Valley these days and you see the way people pitch businesses, how do people balance, especially when you get bigger and investors are expecting we're going to cash out at some point, how do you keep bringing that cause? What's your advice to people in bringing that cause element into the equation?
You got to work it in from the beginning if you can. I mean, people who are starting, young people who are starting companies right now, or old people like me, are in a unique position to be able to weave the idea of doing good by doing well right into the fabric of the company from the beginning, so that you don't have to start a .org 20 years later. You just put it right in there, and just by coming to work every day, you're doing amazing things. So, we even at Jelly, so like we had 3 weeks after we launched, we did a project with Product Red. We said, when you help someone on Jelly, they can tap a thank you button, which I always wanted to create, and I finally did. They tap a thank you button, and everyone involved in helping, whether they forwarded or answered it, everyone gets a thank you card, and they feel really good about themselves. So what we did was we turned thank you cards into $1 donations to help fight AIDS in Africa. And the way I explained that to my board of directors was, I said, this isn't charity, this isn't philanthropy, this is marketing spend, because our tagline is Jelly helps people, and I'm taking this money and I'm using it for marketing the concept that Jelly helps people. Yes, it happens to be saving lives in Africa. That's a great side benefit. But this is marketing, and so that's that's an example of how you can weave doing good by doing well right into the very concept. So the people who use Jelly don't have to do anything different. Their thank yous just equal $1. They don't have to do anything. The employees don't have to do anything. They just keep working on it. I mean, yeah, we had to make a different version of the thank you card that was red. Big deal. In fact, red did the work. It's just that's an example of how you got to weave it in. And yeah, so it may be more challenging for a company that's been around for a long time and has a lot of stockholders and all this, but there's a lot of studies that have come out recently. Cone Research, the Cone Group, something. They did some. If I had my phone, it's in there. But they did some research like a year ago, and it just really backed up this idea that consumers are attracted to meaning. Consumers will pick one product over the other if they know that product or that company is involved in some kind of cause. Like, choose between two sugar waters. One of them is, helping to fight hunger in developing nations, and the other one's just, trying to make money. They'll go with the first one. I mean, it's happening. It's
Right.
starting to happen.
Well, and we've seen, there's been numerous studies that show that while being connected to a cause may not make somebody buy, it will justify paying a premium price or for defending the brand.
And
when things are
also,
tough.
you get better employees, because the most talented employees can pretty much work anywhere they want,
Right.
and they can set their own price. Especially in Silicon Valley, these genius, like wunderkind engineers, they can work anywhere they want, right? And they want to work somewhere, in what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, food, and then like shelter, and then friends, and then some sort of like recognition, and then helping others, and they get to that point where they're like, I want to work somewhere that's actually having a positive impact, making some kind of meaningful dent in the universe.
To that point, I mean, for attracting employees and also attracting users, one of the things that your co-founders often credit
People who use our application.
Right.
Not
you don't like
users.
users so much because it sounds like they might have a habit, right?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it just sounds so.
So people who
dehumanizing.
use. So let me ask you. So your co-founders have often said that you brought the humanity and it helped keep Twitter to be where there was real people behind it. You talk in the book about making sure that you deliver on honesty, and that honesty is the best way. All these tech companies out there right now trying to basically see what worked for Twitter or worked for one of these others. Let's just replicate it. But it doesn't seem to me like they're going for that same. I mean, you would tell people when something was going wrong. I just wondered if you could talk about what should companies do to bring that honesty? How do you do that without looking like you are a failure?
It's really easy to just tell the truth. It doesn't. It's like. So what I did. Sorry, now I'm going to get laryngitis. What I did at Twitter, and I had a lot of practice at it with Blogger, because Blogger also famously struggled to stay up, and so I felt like part of my job was constantly apologizing. But or empathizing. I never actually apologized because I wasn't sorry that I was providing a global platform for freedom of speech for free that didn't work for 15 minutes. Like, I'm not sorry, but I share your frustration.
It's an important.
But what I would do is, every time something would break, I would act like sort of an embedded reporter, and I would go around and be like, so what happened? What did we do wrong? What broke? And, how did we screw up? And I would find out. A lot of times it took a while because we didn't know. And then I would just write a blog post that says, okay, so here's what happened. Here's the good news. That exact thing won't happen again. We won't break precisely that same way. Probably break a different way, but that one's not going to happen again. So that's good. My friends and co-founders usually would always accuse me of spinning, and I was like, I'm not spinning.
But it wasn't spinning. Because spinning is
spinning.
Usually you kind of, it wasn't our fault. It was somebody.
Right.
This thing happened. What's beautiful, it's refreshing, is they're honest.
Exactly. When you say it's your fault, when you take accountability, I think I might say this in the book. I think there's value in vulnerability. There's something to it. If you present yourself as bulletproof, if you present your brand as bulletproof, impervious to mistakes, then you make a mistake, you're totally screwed. But if you present yourself as a bunch of people working really hard to produce a product or a service that they hope people find valuable and useful and they love, then you earn goodwill and people feel like they can empathize with you and they understand you and you're more attractive to customers because they are attracted to people, and I liken it to the characters Harrison Ford, or at least he's being a lot of bad guys now, but he used, like in those Jack Ryan movies or whatever, Patriot Games and stuff, or even Indiana Jones, whenever there was trouble and he would look around a corner and there's a bunch of Nazis, you could see on his face oh man,
I gotta do this again.
I hate these guys. I'm gonna get shot at, and it's gonna be a whole thing. And he's not impervious, and
right.
so and then you like him better because you're like, oh man, I wouldn't want to go out there either.
Why does it have to be snakes?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is interesting that you also talk a lot about here, which is there's a myth in Silicon Valley. We see it in Hollywood too, of these things come about because these geniuses got behind closed doors and they thought out every last detail.
Right.
And you kind of debunk that in talking about a lot of the things that Twitter came to be were almost by accident. But so how do we train ourselves to identify those things and discover that retweeting is maybe something that is good for our business?
Yeah, like you said, there's this myth of the hero founder. I went into my man cave and I came down. I came out with the stone tablet that decreed what shall be, and I'm a genius. I thought it all up myself.
You did put that on your business card, to be fair, though.
Well, no, that was that's a whole separate thing. But I am a genius, actually. I'm what they call polymath. Look it up.
Somebody's out there right now.
No, the Ask Jelly what
Right.
polymath is. Biz Stone. So there's this myth of the hero founder, and it's just so not true. Yeah, somebody can have a good idea, and then it takes all these other people to help you and implement it and tell you where you went wrong and fix that and fix this. And for sure, the first 30 to 50 people that come to work at a company, those are the founders of the company, because those are the people that are setting the tone of the culture. They're building the product. They're figuring it all out. And then beyond that, there's the people who, it depends on what you're building, but something like Twitter, there's the people who are using it, who are showing you what they want. And if you just take a high altitude view of what you're building, and you look for patterns, you can see what your next feature should be, and it's wonderful. I write in the book about an architect who didn't build sidewalks for a new campus on purpose. What he did was he built the buildings, and then he waited to see where people wore out paths getting between the buildings, and then he paved them. Because we all see these, like, okay, this is the best place, but then we see where people cut around, right? There's always, it's never really what it is. So, in a way, Twitter was like that. We sort of looked for patterns, like, oh, people are trying to, I see what they're trying to do here. They're retweeting. They think that tweet's good, and they want their followers. They think their followers should see it. Right. So let's build that, but let's not just build it the exact way they're doing it, because the way they're doing it now is not good, because they're copying it, pasting it into their form, and sometimes changing it, and that's not cool. Like, that means you could say RT Biz and then say something I didn't even say.
Right.
So we made it a button. It caused some outrage, like, no, we want to do it the way we want to do it. We created a button that just instantly retweets it in its perfect form, so that it's the original, and just says retweeted by you. And that way, it maintains its integrity and the way the author intended for it to be written, and it spreads faster, and it's a signal to us what are good tweets. It helps the system get better, all that sort of thing. So these things like retweets and hashtags and @replies and all these things are things that we found, we looked, we developed them by paying attention, and that's the lesson that's learned. And I don't think that's anything groundbreaking. I mean,
like I said, everybody always thinks, we in our client practice, they expect you're going to come in and you've thought out everything, right? And at the same time, sometimes some of these things you have to get into the field and see how people use it in order to really make it get there.
I mean, I also talk about the assumptions I used to share with Twitter employees when they first started Twitter. I always say, you shouldn't assume, because when you assume, what do? You make an ass out of you and me. But nevertheless, people always make assumptions. So if you're going to make assumptions, make these. And I presented people with 6 assumptions, and they're in the book. And one of them is, let's assume we don't have everything figured out, or we don't know everything. There's a lot we don't know. Because the second you think you figured everything out, you're probably screwed. Because there's no way you know everything. And so sort of like leave the door open to the unknown. Leave a seat for Elijah.
My favorite one of those assumptions was Scott is not an idiot, which the notion that you have to believe that your
Phil in marketing is not a jackass.
Right.
Yeah.
Your colleagues actually are trying their best.
That was another assumption. Assume your coworkers are smart and they have good intentions. We wouldn't have hired them if they weren't. I give an example. I say, let's say Phil from marketing presents his marketing plan for the quarter, and you're like, that looks good. Okay. All right, Phil from marketing, good job. Now let's see it. And then, the quarter goes by and some things change and some things didn't happen, and you're like, Phil's an idiot.
Right.
He didn't do.
Why is Phil always trying to ruin what we built?
He didn't do 2 of the things he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what Phil thinks about your plan that also changed, by the way, because of things that, roadblocks and things you had to go around. How about instead you just say, hey, Phil, my name's Biz. How can I help?
Right.
You know what I mean? So a lot of these things, like, they sound silly to have to say them out loud, but assume your coworkers are smart and have good intentions. Now, Phil may well be an idiot.
Yeah.
And if he keeps screwing up, then we'll fire him. But don't make that assumption right off the bat.
Right. So
sorry, Phil. If you're
for all the Phils in the room. Now that you are a veritable wise old man in Silicon Valley in the social media side, and you're funding ventures, you're evaluating many different things, what do you look for? How do you know when there's a company that you think has promise these days?
There's a lot of things, like people first. Like you're really investing in the person that you're talking to, not the concept. But that aside, once you're looking at the concept or the prototype, what I look for is value. Is there going to be a value? Is this going to provide value to people? Organizations, whatever, anyone. Is it going to provide some kind of value? Like, I could tell you right off the bat, like, what sort of IPOs are going to be good and what are going to be bad. Well, now I'm being taken.
Yeah.
Let's be careful. But, something's providing people with value. It helps them every day do a better job at their work. It helps them in their daily life, with their family, etc. This other thing is a silly waste of time, but it's really popular,
right.
and everybody loves it. I go for the value,
right. Right.
You try to go where things are actually making people's lives better in some kind of way, and that's don't get me wrong, that's a really wide spectrum. Like, I love films, storytelling. That makes people's lives better. They learn things. They come out of a movie with a fresh perspective. They maybe change their behavior based on a narrative of a film. So it's not like it's just productivity applications that I'm interested in. In fact, I'm not really a big fan of those. But I look for value. Is there going to be a value there?
Value and the people involved.
It's the people first, always. That's another thing I have in my book is, like, I have a simple ordered list that I go about my entire working career with, and that is number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is people, number 2 is technology. So a lot of companies in Silicon Valley just have it switched, and that's just not the right way to do it. Like, everyone, when Twitter was like 2008, 2009, everyone's like, Twitter revolution, like, it's the Twitter people, it's Twitter, and I was like, it's not Twitter, you guys. It's these brave men and women who are, like, doing these incredible things, getting hurt, sometimes dying, bleeding in the streets. Twitter is a tool that happens to be around. That's like, they're using it because it's convenient and it brings them value. It's not like AT&T like stood up during the fall of the Berlin Wall and said, people use phones, man. People use our phones. If they hadn't talked to each other on their phones, that probably wouldn't have happened. AT&T revolution. No, it's just of course they use phones. It was available. Like, we had to make some phone calls. People had to make calls, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Also thinking about who you're in business with, you have been, many folks have noted what a prince you've been as there were changes in the corner suite at Twitter and the way that you handled that. You address it in the book the same way, but I wonder if there's like 3 guys sitting in the audience now who are thinking about starting their own company based on what you've been through. What would you tell them about how you work with your colleagues and how you try to make sure that friendships are preserved through that?
I think it's all about just respect and being kind and being nice, and I deeply respect my friends Jack and Ev. I followed Ev out to California. Our boys play together. Like now, Jack is an incredible resource for me at this point. He's basically my executive coach. He's so helpful to me. And the book that came out about the palace intrigue of Twitter really just trumped up.
Yeah.
There sure these things happened, but it really trumped up the dramatic. Someone had to be an incredibly scheming Machiavellian bad guy, and in reality, everyone thought that what they were doing was best for the company. They really did. No one was like nobody had these massive, multi-layered strings of like plotting, scheming. That just there was no time for that kind of stuff. So.
And you made the comment that money changed everything. The minute it was a
Yeah, well,
$500 million company.
It took me a long time to realize that. Sometimes I'm slow to catch on to things, but you know, for me, like as the years went on, I still thought of ourselves as this ragtag group of people who are like, oh my gosh, are things working? And then I was sitting in a board meeting several years in, and I was like, why are people behaving in such strange ways? And then I said, oh my God, I know why. Because there's billions of dollars, and people want to be really, really rich, and that's why they're acting crazy. So yeah, money. Money has obviously money and power have
Right.
role to play.
As Twitter became more and more influential, and people looked to it, and you said yourself, it's not Twitter, it's the people out there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always respected was your sort of stance on the neutrality of the Twitter brand, and you weren't too happy when the Obama interview went down. What was that about? Talk about that.
Well, a lot of it started when Twitter started getting associated with these revolutions, right? And in particular, Arab Spring in Iran. When like news got out that the State Department had contacted us, and yeah, so did like 1,000 other people, right? And I was asked at that point. I was basically doing all the interviews because I was better at it than Jack and Ev. Basically, they've gotten better now, but also we figured out that every time I went on a TV show, we got like 1 million new downloads. So it was like, hello, let's just put Biz and just make Biz go all over the world doing Brazilian Oprah. So that got tiring. But there was a particular week where just everybody wanted me to come on, like the nightly news with Brian Williams and like all these really important things. Like you got to come on these shows and you got to talk about Twitter and the role it played in these revolutions. And I was thinking, my gut just told me like, no way. First of all, I don't know anything about this stuff. I have to go on Wikipedia and look this stuff up. I'm going to look like an idiot. And then second of all, if I claim that Twitter deposed this regime and the next guy's worse, then what am I? Then what? Like, no.
You're to blame. Yeah.
We didn't do that. Like, I forget what I said before. Like, who knows what the next guy's gonna do? It could be worse, right? So, and then even more so than that, people were dying, and I'm gonna go on TV and be like, hey, buy our product, like, or use our thing. It's great, like let's use the spilled blood of Iranian people to sell Twitter. I mean, that's just disgusting.
Tweet responsibly, right?
That's gross and just totally not cool. So I turned down all of those interviews, and I said, I didn't want to ruin my relationship with the press because I did want to do, we did want press. So I just basically wrote the same email to everyone. I said, thank you for thinking of us, but we really feel like it would be inappropriate for us to come on and discuss this. And I got a lot of flack from the board and stuff, like we really should be, getting out there and doing this. And I knew it was wrong. So that started it. And then, when people were like, oh, we heard the State Department called you, like, yeah, there's not like a red phone in our office, like somebody emailed us, and so did so many other people. And so I hammered this home every chance I got. I said, okay, look, yeah, they contacted us, so did everybody else, but the United States State Department does not have any control over our decision-making process. Absolutely none whatsoever. We in fact we make it as difficult as possible for them to get any kind of information out of us that we don't that people don't want to freely give. And I was really proud when the New York Times came out with this whole PRISM thing, and one line in there was, Twitter made it. Twitter was the one company that made it incredibly hard for the U.S. government. I was like, yes. And so I just didn't want us to be. At that point, we were a global company, and I didn't want people around the world thinking that we were working with the United States administration to, secretly promote democracy or something like that. We were a global service for free speech around the world. We weren't working for this government, and I wanted to make that as clear as possible, hammering it home every blog post, every chance I got. And so, yeah, in the book I write about how, there was the president was having the town hall that he does every year or whatever. And this year they wanted to use Twitter to get questions from around the United States. Great. And I was told that, hey, we're going to do this thing, we're going to get questions. And I said, cool, as long as no one from Twitter is sitting next to the president, as long as you get someone from CNN or somewhere to just, to moderate the questions. And they're like, oh, absolutely, we know how sensitive you are about this. And I woke up the morning of and I looked at my iPhone and it was like, hey, everybody, it's going to be great. Jack Dorsey's going to be interviewing the president on TV. And I was like, what? After 5 years? And I just went one of the few times I kind of freaked out and I just emailed the whole company and I was like, this is absolutely not what we talked about. This is making me really upset. I went on and on. Someone was like, you do realize this is to the whole company? And I was like, I know it's to the whole company. That was the last time I was able to email the whole company. But, it peeved me. And, and now we have this news coming out that the United States possibly created this this Twitter-like service in Cuba to try to, allegedly foment a revolution. Like, hello, where's my thank you? Where's my validation?
Right. This is obviously not your first trip to LA. You've just recently done a film. What do you think, beyond making jelly successful, what's your second act?
Well, jelly. I mean, the jelly is, once I decided to do it, I had to go all in and abandon everything else. I had this great thing, had a great gig going on. I started Medium with Ev, and I said, Ev, look, we're on the same wavelength. How about I just work 2 days a week, because we pretty much agree on everything, right? So I'll just kind of hang out. I'll come in the office and I'll help you, but I'll work from home 3 days a week, and I'll take tennis lessons, and I'll play with my kid, and I'll write a book, and it'll be great. And he was like, sure, that sounds great. And I was like, this is awesome. And I told my wife, I was like, I could just work 2 days a week, or and she was like, great. And then I accidentally had this idea for jelly, and I was like, maybe it's a really bad idea. I'll just run it by some people, and they're like, oh my god, it's such a great idea. And so because you like helping people, and this is a productization of your personality. And I was like, oh god, all right, I'm gonna ask somebody else. And I asked 5 of my most smartest, trusted confidants, and they were like, oh, you got to do this. And I was like, shit, now I'm gonna barf, because now that means I have to do this all over again. Right. So I went all in. But yeah, I did. I directed a film last year with this Ron Howard Canon. Essentially, this was an elaborate endorsement of Canon products. It's really what it was, but it was so far removed from that it was really classy. It was like, Biz, you're invited to write and direct a short film using the latest technology from Canon. So great, fine. All I have to do is use their technology. That's great. Yeah. So I did that, and actually Brian Grazer came in and watched a rough cut when I was editing, and he was like, dude, you're Ang Lee. That's what he said to me. And I was like, all right, you're funny. And he was like, seriously, dude, you're Ang Lee. And I was like, all right, I'll take it. And then he was like, I mean, I don't go for this kind of shit, but 20-year-old women would love this stuff. You want to direct films? You want to direct some films? And I was like, maybe.
Sure.
That, maybe that'd be cool. So maybe
come back and do it again.
In another life, if I live long enough, maybe I can direct. I actually have an idea I'm actually producing a documentary and a TV series right now, but I have an idea for a sci-fi series, because I'm really disappointed in what's out there right now. Everything science fiction is this dystopian, nightmarish worlds of where everything is like horrible, right? And I do think that life imitates art. You know, we put these things out there, and our collective unconscious kind of makes them true later. And I'm like, don't keep
Don't
doing
put it
that.
out there, yeah.
And you know, Gene Roddenberry, you know, had this unbelievably aspirational vision of the future where humanity gets together and they end poverty, disease, war is over, and they build these fancy spaceships and they go out and they explore. And so I have written a, you know, like a treatment for a series that encourages young girls and boys to get really interested in technology, science and technology, so that maybe we will get there one day. But when am I going to do that? You know?
You'll find the time somehow, I think. And before we get into a long Star Trek riff, because that could go on for a while, we should probably take some questions from the audience.
I did a talk with Evan Williams once where all he had to do was basically sit there next to me, and he managed to fall off his chair. I was like, dude, all you had to do was sit there. Come on.
You said that number one was people, and number two, technology, to make you interested in a project. What specifically would you be interested in people?
Oh, you mean when it comes to like investing or helping with?
Yeah, exactly. Mentoring, whatever. Introducing.
Well, I think the people who are really interesting are the people who are a more mission based approach than you know. I think this is gonna make a lot of money. I think a lot of people will like it. I mean, I wouldn't go for it, but you know, it'll make a lot of money and the people will like it. Yeah, it's not good. Or
what was that? What was that last part?
It's just the fact that they're
like people who are mission based.
They think they see it as a mission. They think that it's what they're emotionally invested in, and they really want to see this thing come to life, rather than, I think it's a good idea that other people will like. I necessarily wouldn't go in for this kind of thing, but I'm gonna build it because I don't like that. The second thing I look for. So I like mission-based approaches. The second thing I look for is like a failure. Like, has this person, you know, tried and failed in the past? Because that's great. I mean, you can't learn better than by falling on your face multiple times. I mean, you know, if someone's got a rich patina of failure behind them and they're not embarrassed to talk about it and what they learned from it, that's fantastic. So.
Do you also, you know...
And also the third thing is...
Oops. I'm about to fall off my chair. Wow.
The third thing is... I think it was Milton Glaser that said this. If you spend half an hour with somebody, whether it's at a ball game, dinner, just chatting, and afterwards you feel energized by that conversation, that's a good person to work with. If afterwards you just feel exhausted and depleted, that's probably going to be like a toxic relationship, and you shouldn't work with that person. So that's another sort of like, I don't know, sniff test, if you will.
It's the old test of would you want to sit with that person on a flight from LA to New York.
Yeah, right. Like the guy I sat with on the way down here today. Oh, you bet. The guy was like super, like, a lot of hair product, 2 buttons unbuttoned down.
Oh boy.
And then on the phone a lot, and towards the end of the trip, he was like, "Hey, so are you in tech?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in tech, and I do some other stuff too. Like, I started out as an artist, so I do other stuff too." And then I went on my phone like I was doing busy stuff, and then he was like, "All right, I'm gonna go on my phone." Yeah, I got a big wire coming through. I don't know, probably 40, 50,000. No, personal account. Yeah. Is that going to be? That's good. Okay, that's cool. Just checking. Yeah. How did we get on that story? Anyway.
I was going to ask you.
The elevator thing. You don't want to get stuck in the elevator with that guy.
Well, and to the point, like, you know, I look at, you brought up the fact that it's good to see that they've had some failure or that they've dealt with adversity. You came up through a non-traditional path. We're seeing in tech, it feels like so much as tons of MBAs, tons of PhDs in engineering, but sometimes they don't have that mission and they've never had to face failure. Do you feel like there are people now, like, are set up almost for the wrong expectations and what it means to be successful in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, it goes back to part of that myth now, you know. I mean, we do live in a totally different sort of media landscape now. I read an article, the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer of Snapchat, has never seen a computer server because they run their whole, Amazon offers Amazon Web Services, and you actually, so you operate in the cloud, you use their stuff. But he's never seen a server. It's crazy, and they have like hundreds of millions of people using their stuff. And we also live in a world where Twitter and Facebook exist now, so when you launch a new product, and we experienced this with Jelly, first 24 hours, we had twice the accounts created than a year of Twitter.
Right.
Because we had to claw our way to the top because there wasn't Twitter and Facebook. The word of mouth was word of mouth. Actual word of mouth. It wasn't like streams, you know, like on Facebook and Twitter, which just blow it up.
Right. Do we have another question?
Yes, back here. What are some of the social media platforms or consumer-facing technologies that you admire, or features that you wish you thought of, or what are some of the other ones that you look at and go, wow, I really appreciate the thought leadership there, or
well, there's
use that you really like.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's admiration of, you know, products, and there's admiration of companies and the people who run them, you know. So I may be answering a slightly different question, but Amazon is an incredibly interesting and well-run company, and I just really admire the 10, 20-year vision that they have, the way they think so far in advance, and they don't care what people are, you know, they still to this day are reinvesting, and sometimes some quarters lose money, and they've been around forever. They could be banking so much money, but they're reinvesting in amazing things, and they're doing so many great things. And so Bezos is just an incredible long-term thinker, and so that's something that I really admire.
And he kind of embraces your comment about side projects also. I mean, Amazon Web Services, we have this stuff, we could be selling it to somebody else.
Right. Why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing, like, about the cooperation of humanity that really bugs me. Like, Google figures out how to build huge, efficient data centers, and then, like, Facebook has to figure it out again. Like, what a waste, you know? Like, we could have been just skip that and go on to something. Anyway. But I understand it's proprietary and all that jazz. Other things, so Amazon just as a company and the way it's run is incredibly inspiring, and great leadership there. Square, my friend Jack's company, really, really cool and innovative, interesting product, because the way it was pitched to me when I invested was, Biz, we've been doing this for centuries. We've been buying things for centuries. This is a social exchange between people, and we do it every day, multiple times a day. And I'm going to create a beautiful product that makes that exchange easier, better, and more about social. Like some of the products that Square has, like Square Wallet, you just go into a store and you just say your name to the person, and that's how you pay. It's so cool. Like, people who don't know about it are like, what did you just do? I'm like, don't worry about it, I'm Biz Stone. Like, I took these people to this place in Oakland, and I said, and we had this big brunch, and then I knew that they took Square Wallet, and so they were like, and I was like, we're all done, I'm Biz Stone. And they were like, okay, thank you. And then they were like, what just happened?
You know, I worked in the payment cards industry for 6 or 7 years on the MasterCard brand, and that was always, it's saturated, nobody can penetrate that industry, and yet they're reinventing it. You can give your name.
They're reinventing it, and Jack is like, look, these credit card companies are running off code from the 70s, man. Let's redo this whole thing. And that's ballsy, you know, like, that's like, who wants to do that, you know? I mean, I was exhausted when he just told me he was going to do it. I was like, really? You're going to take on that whole thing? Seems like a nightmare.
2 last questions. aside from finding the right people for a team, what do you see as the biggest challenge in going from a great business idea to a great successful business?
Well, the biggest challenge is, I don't like this word because it sounds so like mean, but execution. Just being willing to, first of all, rapid iteration. Work on it. That's not working. Change it. That's not working. Do that. Change that. Do this. Change that. That was our best idea. It sucked. Change it. Like you have to work really fast, and you have to be willing to change. Completely change stuff. There's a lot of stuff about jelly, which I sort of designed the whole app, and then it turns out that a lot of my stuff that I thought was going to be genius stuff just doesn't work at all, and I have to redo it. But so the main thing going from idea to making it work is working on it. Like as silly as that sounds, it's actually just getting it done. That's why when people come to me and they're like, "Biz, can I show you this PDF of an idea that I have, but you got to sign an NDA first?" I'm like, "No way, man. Build something, even if it's like super janky. Build something that would just show me something that like works, and then I'll give you my." And also, don't make me sign an NDA. It doesn't matter if some people are afraid. Like, this idea is so good, if I tell anyone, like, somebody might do it. And I'm like, so what? Like, that doesn't mean you can't still do a better job. Like, someone also wrote a book before. Should I not write a book? Anyway.
They can't execute it the way you do.
Yeah, you do a better job.
Right. Last question.
So you touched a little bit upon the Hatching Twitter book, and when I read it, it was like a nail-biting turn pager.
Yeah, my wife was like, "This thing is riveting."
Yeah, it was like, how's it going to end? So can you talk a little bit about where you found some of the more egregious non-truths to be or exaggerations?
I didn't read the whole thing. I skimmed my part to see how it came off. And I was like, okay, well, it looks like I came off like a good guy. I'm satisfied. So I didn't actually even read the whole thing. But my wife told me all about it, and the biggest craziest thing is that Jack is a mean-spirited, revengeful guy. He is the sweetest person, one of the sweetest people I've ever met. A really, really good friend who always has my back and is always looking out for me, and I can always depend on him. And so that is just absolutely false. That's the biggest thing. I mean, did Ev puke inside a garbage can before he went on to tell the company that he's leaving? Yeah, that was true. He did. He barfed. So a lot of the stuff was true, but the fact that Jack was just this mean, horrible, like Mr. Burns is absolutely crazy wrong.
The book is Things a Little Bird Told Me. A lot of people write these books about confessions of a creative mind. This one actually will give you a lot of things to think about when you're developing your own business. You can actually read what did happen in Twitter and how that came to be. You should download Jelly. It's a great app. And there's a good reason why he was just recently voted Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.